When you think of a sloth, what comes to mind? You probably picture a small, slow-moving creature hanging upside down from a tree branch. It has that famously sleepy smile and a wonderfully relaxed attitude. But I want you to forget that image for a moment. Instead, let's travel back in time, way back to the Ice Age. Imagine a world where sloths weren't just small tree dwellers. Imagine a world where sloths were giants. These weren't the animals we know today. These were colossal beings that roamed the earth, shaking the ground with every step they took. It's a wild thought, but it's absolutely true. These were the giant ground sloths, and for millions of years, they were a dominant force across the Americas. Picture this. You're standing in a vast open grassland during the Pleistocene epoch. In the distance, you see something massive moving through the tall grasses. It's not an elephant or a mammoth. It's a sloth, but it's as tall as a giraffe and weighs more than a large SUV. This is Megatherium, one of the largest ground sloths that ever lived. It could stand on its powerful hind legs, reaching up to 20 feet high to strip leaves from the tallest trees. Its sheer size is almost impossible to comprehend. This was a sloth that didn't need to hide in the canopy. It was a walking, breathing part of the landscape itself. A true megafauna marvel. These incredible animals were relatives of the sloths we see today, but they lived a completely different life. Instead of a quiet, arboreal existence, they were terrestrial giants. They walked the land, from the dense forests of South America all the way to the frozen tundras of Alaska. They were a diverse group, with dozens of different species, each adapted to its own unique environment. Some were the size of bears, while others, like the mighty Megatherium, were true behemoths. For millions of years, these giants were an integral part of the ecosystem, shaping the very world they lived in with their immense power and presence. It's a breathtaking chapter in our planet's history. Thinking about this lost world fills me with a sense of wonder and awe. It challenges everything we think we know about these seemingly lazy animals. The story of the giant ground sloth is a reminder that nature is full of surprises, and that the past holds creatures more fantastic than anything we could invent. They weren't just big, they were complex, successful, and incredibly resilient animals that thrived for an immense stretch of geological time. So, join me on this adventure as we uncover the secrets of these magnificent beasts and explore the world they once ruled. It's a journey that will change the way you see sloths forever. To understand these giants, we first have to look at their family tree. The story of the sloths, the Xenarthrans, begins in South America around 60 million years ago. This continent was an island for a very long time, which allowed a unique collection of mammals to evolve in isolation. Early sloths were likely small, maybe the size of a cat, and probably spent some of their time in the trees. But evolution is a powerful force, and over millions of years, some of these sloth lineages began to experiment. Instead of staying small and sticking to the canopy, they started getting bigger, and bigger, and bigger. This was the birth of the ground sloths. The first giant ground sloths appeared millions of years ago, long before the Ice Age we often associate them with. They abandoned a life in the trees for a life on the ground, a move that opened up a whole new world of possibilities. On the ground, they could access different food sources and grow to incredible sizes, free from the constraints of balancing on branches. This evolutionary path led to an amazing diversification of species. There wasn't just one type of giant ground sloth. There were many different families, each with its own unique set of adaptations and lifestyle. It was a true evolutionary success story written across an entire continent. Two of the most famous and well-studied types were the Megatheriids and the Mylodontids. The star of the Megatheriidae family was, of course, Megatherium americanum, the great beast from America. This was the true giant of the sloth world, a creature that could weigh over 4 tons and stand as tall as an elephant. Then you have the Mylodontids like Mylodon darwinii, which was discovered by the great Charles Darwin himself. These sloths were generally smaller, more like the size of a large bull, but were incredibly robust and powerfully built. Mylodon is particularly fascinating because some specimens were found with small bones called osteoderms embedded in their skin, acting like a kind of natural chainmail armor. These different families show just how adaptable sloths were. From the towering Megatherium to the armored Mylodon and the seafaring Thalassocnus that lived along the coast of Peru, these animals filled a wide range of ecological niches. They weren't just one-note wonders, they were a complex and varied group that dominated South American ecosystems for millions of years. Their story is a powerful testament to the creativity of evolution, showing how a single group of animals can branch out to conquer land and even sea in the most spectacular ways. It's an epic family saga of adaptation and survival. The sheer size of a giant ground sloth is the first thing that grabs your attention, but it's their specific adaptations that reveal how they truly thrived. Let's start with those incredible claws. Unlike their tree-dwelling cousins who used their claws like hooks, giant ground sloths had massive, formidable claws that could be up to a foot long. These weren't just for show, they were powerful tools used for a variety of tasks. Their primary function was likely for feeding, allowing the sloths to hook onto large tree branches and pull them down to their mouths. They could have also used these claws to dig for roots and tubers, accessing food sources that other herbivores couldn't reach. To support their immense weight, giant ground sloths had incredibly strong and robust skeletons. Their leg bones were thick and powerful, especially their hind legs. This powerful base allowed them to adopt a bipedal stance, meaning they could stand up on their back legs. This was a huge advantage. By standing up, a megatherium could reach high into the trees, browsing on leaves that were out of reach for almost every other plant eater. Their strong, muscular tail acted like a third leg, forming a stable tripod that allowed them to stand and feed for extended periods. They walked on the sides of their feet, a strange posture that helped protect their giant claws from wearing down. When you look inside their mouths, you find another key to their success: their teeth. Giant ground sloths had simple, peg-like teeth that grew continuously throughout their lives. This was a crucial adaptation for a diet of tough, gritty vegetation. As their teeth wore down from chewing abrasive plants, they would just keep growing. They didn't have enamel like we do. Instead, they had different layers of dentin that wore down at different rates, creating a self-sharpening surface. This dental toolkit allowed them to process a huge variety of plant matter, from soft leaves to tough, woody stems, making them highly effective and versatile foragers in any environment. Putting it all together, the giant ground sloth was a masterpiece of biological engineering. Their massive size provided protection from predators. Their powerful legs and tail gave them stability and reach. Their formidable claws served as both feeding tools and defensive weapons, and their ever-growing teeth allowed them to eat almost any plant they came across. Every part of their anatomy, from their strange walk to their unique dental structure, was perfectly suited for a life as a colossal herbivore. They were truly built to last, a design that served them well for millions of years of earthly dominance. The story of the giant ground sloths is a story of incredible expansion. For tens of millions of years, they were confined to their evolutionary cradle, the island continent of South America. There they flourished in a wide range of habitats, from the lush Amazon rainforest to the arid grasslands of Patagonia. They were one of the dominant groups of herbivores on the continent, sharing the landscape with other unique South American creatures like glyptodonts, terror birds, and toxodons. This long period of isolation allowed them to diversify into the many forms we see in the fossil record, each one perfectly adapted to its specific corner of the continent. Everything changed about 3 million years ago with a monumental geological event, the formation of the Isthmus of Panama. This land bridge connected North and South America for the first time in millions of years, triggering a massive biological exchange known as the Great American Biotic Interchange. Animals that had been separated for eons were suddenly able to cross from one continent to the other. For the giant ground sloths, this was a golden opportunity. They were among the most successful migrants to head north, venturing out of their ancestral homeland and into a whole new world of possibilities. Their journey north was a spectacular success. Giant ground sloths proved to be incredibly adaptable, spreading far and wide across their new continent. Fossils have been found all over North America, from Florida to California, and as far north as the Yukon and Alaska. They colonized a vast array of environments, from warm, humid woodlands to cold, dry steppes. Imagine a megalonyx or Jefferson's ground sloth browsing in the forests of Ohio, or a Nothrotheriops navigating the arid landscapes of the American Southwest. They became a common and vital part of the North American megafauna for over 2 million years. The wide distribution of these animals shows just how resilient and versatile they were. They weren't picky eaters, and their great size meant they had few natural enemies. This allowed them to thrive in nearly every terrestrial ecosystem the Americas had to offer. Whether it was the high-altitude environments of the Andes or the coastal plains of North America, these giants found a way to make it their home. Their epic continental trek is one of the great stories of animal migration, a testament to their ability to adapt and conquer new territories on a scale that is almost hard to imagine today. So, what was a typical day like for a giant ground sloth? Based on the evidence, it was a life focused on finding enough food to fuel their enormous bodies. As massive herbivores, they would have spent a large portion of their day foraging. Their diet was varied. Chemical analysis of their fossilized dung, known as coprolites, shows they ate a wide range of plants, including leaves, grasses, shrubs, and fruits. Some species, like the desert-dwelling Nothrotheriops, seem to specialize in plants like yucca and agave. Their ability to stand on their hind legs gave them a huge advantage, allowing them to browse high in the trees like modern-day giraffes, a feeding strategy known as high browsing. One of the most intriguing theories about their behavior involves digging. In South America, paleontologists have discovered enormous prehistoric tunnels, some stretching for hundreds of feet. These tunnels, called paleoburrows, are so large that only a giant animal could have dug them. Many scientists believe that giant ground sloths, perhaps from the Mylodontid family, were the architects of these incredible structures. They might have used their powerful claws and strong limbs to excavate these burrows for shelter from the elements or as a safe place to rest and raise their young. It's a fascinating image, a giant armored sloth digging its own subterranean home. Of course, life in the Pleistocene wasn't all peaceful browsing and digging. These giants shared their world with some of the most formidable predators ever to walk the earth, like the saber-toothed cat, Smilodon. So how did a slow-moving sloth defend itself? Their first line of defense was their sheer size. A fully grown megatherium would have been an incredibly intimidating target for any predator. If threatened, a ground sloth could rear up on its hind legs, towering over its attacker. From this position, it could lash out with its massive, sharp claws, which would have been devastating weapons capable of inflicting serious, if not fatal wounds. Some species had an extra layer of protection. As we mentioned, Mylodon had osteoderms, those little bony plates embedded in its skin, which would have acted like a suit of armor, making it much harder for a predator's teeth or claws to penetrate. Between their immense size, powerful claws, and in some cases natural armor, adult giant ground sloths were likely very difficult to prey upon. They were not the helpless, slow victims we might imagine. They were tough, resilient survivors, well-equipped to handle the dangers of their prehistoric world and hold their own against the era's top predators. For millions of years, giant ground sloths coexisted with a spectacular cast of other prehistoric animals. In South America, their neighbors included giant armadillo-like glyptodonts, the strange-looking toxodon, and massive short-faced bears. When they moved into North America, they joined an ecosystem already populated by mammoths, mastodons, camels, horses, and bison. They had to compete with these other large herbivores for food, but their unique ability to browse on high branches likely gave them their own niche. They were just one piece of a complex and vibrant puzzle of megafauna that stretched across 2 continents. Their primary adversaries were the era's top predators. In North America, this meant facing off against dire wolves, American lions, and the iconic saber-toothed cat, Smilodon fatalis. While a pack of dire wolves might have been able to take down a juvenile or a sick individual, a healthy adult sloth was a different story. Fossil sites like the La Brea tar pits in Los Angeles give us a glimpse into these interactions. We find the bones of both sloths and saber-toothed cats preserved together, a silent testament to ancient struggles between predator and prey. An adult sloth, with its thick hide, immense power, and slashing claws, would have been a dangerous animal to attack. Then, a new and very different kind of creature arrived on the scene: early humans. People first entered the Americas towards the end of the last ice age, somewhere between 15,000 and 20,000 years ago. These were skilled and intelligent hunter-gatherers who had developed sophisticated tools and strategies for taking down large game. For the giant ground sloths, who had evolved alongside non-human predators for millions of years, this new, two-legged hunter represented a completely novel threat. Humans were clever, worked in coordinated groups, and used projectile weapons like spears. The evidence for human interaction with giant ground sloths is clear and compelling. Archaeologists have found sloth bones with unmistakable cut marks from stone tools, indicating that humans were butchering these animals for their meat and hides. In some incredible cases, they've found sloth footprints preserved in ancient mud alongside human footprints, a frozen moment in time capturing a potential hunt or interaction. The arrival of humans marked a dramatic shift in the ecological balance. The sloths, for all their size and power, were suddenly faced with a predator unlike any they had ever known before. Their long reign was approaching a dramatic and sudden end. The end for the giant ground sloths came relatively quickly, in a wave of extinctions that swept across the Americas around 10,000 years ago. After millions of years of success, these magnificent giants vanished from the face of the earth, along with mammoths, saber-toothed cats, and dozens of other large animal species. So, what happened? Why did these incredibly resilient creatures disappear? Scientists generally point to a powerful combination of two major factors: rapid climate change and the arrival of human hunters. It was a perfect storm of environmental and ecological pressure. At the end of the Pleistocene, the Earth's climate was changing dramatically. The massive ice sheets that covered much of the northern hemisphere were retreating, and global temperatures were rising. This caused huge shifts in vegetation and habitats across the continent. The cool, moist woodlands and parklands that many giant sloths depended on began to shrink, replaced by different types of forests and grasslands. This environmental upheaval would have put immense stress on large animal populations, disrupting their food sources and forcing them to adapt to new conditions or move to find suitable habitats. For some species, this change was simply too fast and too drastic. The second major factor was human pressure, a theory often called the overkill hypothesis. Early Paleo-Indians were highly effective big-game hunters. They had developed sophisticated stone spear points, like the famous Clovis points, which were deadly weapons for hunting large mammals. The giant ground sloths, being relatively slow-moving and perhaps not instinctively fearful of humans, would have been attractive and comparatively easy targets. Evidence of humans hunting sloths is found at multiple archaeological sites. This constant hunting pressure, especially on younger animals, could have been enough to push populations into a steep decline from which they could not recover. Most likely, it wasn't one or the other, but a devastating combination of both. As climate change was already stressing sloth populations and shrinking their habitats, the added pressure of human hunting may have been the final blow. Weakened and fragmented populations are much more vulnerable to extinction. A species that might have been able to adapt to a changing climate on its own could not do so while also being systematically hunted by a new and highly intelligent predator. It was this one-two punch of climate and spears that likely sealed the fate of the giant ground sloths, ending their millions of years-long rule of the Americas. The story of the giant ground sloths is more than just a fascinating chapter from our planet's deep past. It holds important lessons for us today. Remembering these incredible creatures reminds us that the world we live in is constantly changing. The sleepy, tree-hanging sloths we know and love today are the sole survivors of a much grander and more diverse family. Their giant relatives show us that an animal group can be incredibly successful for millions of years, and still vanish in what is, geologically speaking, the blink of an eye. It's a powerful and humbling reminder of the fragility of life, even for the biggest and strongest among us. Their extinction story in particular serves as a critical cautionary tale. The combination of rapid climate change and human impact that likely wiped them out is eerily similar to the challenges facing wildlife today. We are currently living through a period of rapid human-caused climate change, and our activities are putting immense pressure on ecosystems all over the globe. The fate of the giant ground sloth shows us what can happen when a species is hit with too many stressors at once. It underscores our responsibility to be better stewards of the planet and to consider the long-term consequences of our actions on the other species with whom we share this world. Furthermore, studying these lost giants helps us understand the ecosystems they once inhabited. As massive herbivores, they were ecosystem engineers, shaping the landscape by dispersing seeds, clearing vegetation, and creating habitats for other organisms through their browsing and digging. Their disappearance left a huge void in the American ecosystems, a void that has never truly been filled. Understanding their role helps us better appreciate the complex web of interactions that holds modern ecosystems together and highlights the cascading effects that can occur when a key species is lost. Their ghosts still haunt the landscapes they once roamed. Ultimately, the tale of the giant ground sloth is a story of wonder, resilience, and loss. It sparks our imagination and connects us to a wilder, more epic version of our world. It teaches us about the incredible power of evolution and the profound impact that even a few degrees of temperature change or the arrival of a new species can have. By remembering these magnificent beasts, we honor their legacy. And in doing so, we are reminded of our crucial role in protecting the amazing biodiversity that remains, ensuring that the wonderful creatures of our time don't suffer the same fate as the incredible giants that came before.